Number 13, I made the statement just a little bit earlier. If you're looking at the handout that I gave you, number 5 and number 13 are substantially similar. However, number 13 is the more simple of the two. It's not simple, but it's the more simple of the two. If you get bogged down in your study, I would focus and spend my time on number 13 and not worry about number 5 unless you were able to handle it with pretty good dexterity. So as I read number 13, I look at it and I realize it is a qualifying problem. By this point, by the time of the exam, the minute you know it's a qualifying problem, you just simply set up your T-bars. Housing expense over gross monthly income times ratio on the income end, and then on the debt ratio, all we do is add long-term debt. Everything else looks the same, okay? So you set up your T-bars, you read the question, you start plugging stuff in. What is the maximum housing expense? So we know we're looking for this variable. What is the maximum housing expense that a borrower qualifies for if his annual income is $84,000 and the bank will qualify him using 2836? Well, remember, 84 per year is interesting, but the number we need is actually the monthly. So 84,000 divided by 12 clearly gives you 7,000 in GMI, gross monthly income. And then the ratios were given as well, 28 and 36. Okay. I continue reading the problem. His taxes and insurance are estimated to be $240 per month, and recurring debt is $600 per month, of which $185 will be paid off in 4 months. What are we going to do with that $185?
Minus it out.
Forget about it, because it's paid in 4 months, which is less than how many? 6. Anything that's paid off in less than 6 is not going to be a big deal. So how much is his actual long-term debt?
$415, right?
$415. And the reason is that 600 minus the 185, okay? All right, now we have everything plugged into place. And we're looking for housing expense, right? So that's good. By the way, let me mention this to you as well. Did you notice I threw in the $240 as taxes and insurance just to trick you? That taxes and insurance will not help you in this problem, okay? So, as I plug in the numbers, 7,000 times 28% down here is how much? 19.6? And actually, on the front end, I'm done. GMI times ratio gives me housing expense. So let's go down to this end. 7,000 times 36%, 25.2.
Yes.
Okay, 2,520. All right. Now, Lauren, I need you to be sharp right here. Do you remember if it's a maximum housing expense question or a maximum loan amount question? This one's maximum housing expense. On the back end, do you remember what we're going to do with that long-term debt?
You can slash it out,
I need to get rid of it, and the way you get rid of it is,
minus it out.
okay, this is that same logic that we talked about a little bit earlier. 2105, somebody check my math, that look good?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I got 2107. What'd you get? Did you?
Yeah, I think you may have just made a calculator error because I don't think there were any rounding issues there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then finally, the last thing that you need to put together here, and of course you look at the answers, you know I put both of those as potential answers. So the final question here is, what is the maximum housing expense for which the bank qualifies you? It's always going to be the
Lesser.
lower of the two, because the bank is going to take the most conservative position. So housing expense equals 1960. Look, there's another reason I wrote this problem like this as well. You get so used to the answer being down there that a lot of people say, well, do I even have to do the front end? In this problem, did you have to do the front end? Yeah, the answer ended up being the front end. And unless you have a real good idea of where you're going to land, do them both, and then at the last minute pick which one. Maximum housing expense always going to be the lower of the two.